Viewer discretion advised. Some of the images and videos you are about to see are deeply disturbing. They reveal horrifying realities that many Nigerian media outlets are too afraid or too compromised to expose. This content is not shown to shock or offend you, but to confront the painful truth that countless voices have been silenced while those responsible continue without accountability. Too many journalists have been paid to look away. Too many leaders have chosen silence over justice. And so we must ask the question that echoes across faith and freedom. Should President Trump intervene to protect Nigerian Christians from the jihadists who continue to slaughter them while the world looks away? Watch with an open heart, reflect, and above all, do not remain silent.
The Nigerian government came out openly and denied there is no massacre, there is no genocide of Christians in Nigeria, and look at it today. Is there any Muslim here? United Nations, I know you're watching it. American Senate, you are watching what I'm doing, I'm saying here. Special advisor to Trump, now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria, massacred Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims.
Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians. The USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians.
Nigeria stands at a breaking point, a land of rich faith and fertile soil, yet scarred by years of bloodshed. Behind the headlines of bandit attacks and herder clashes lies a deeper struggle, a collision of ideology, identity, and land. For many Nigerians, the conflict is not simply political, it is spiritual. It is about who controls the soil beneath their feet and the faith in their hearts. The violence is often framed as random, but evidence from eyewitnesses and investigators reveals coordination, intent, and ideology. In 2025, international reports again warned that Nigeria faces a growing Christian genocide, fueled by jihadist militias and land-grabbing networks. Groups such as Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa openly declare war on Christians. But behind them, armed herdsmen advance village by village, seizing territory once tilled by Christian farmers. The strategy is twofold: terrorize communities through jihad and then occupy their ancestral land. From Benway's rich plains to Plateau's green hills, the pattern repeats: midnight raids, mass displacements, then quiet resettlement. This is not new. Decades of smaller clashes laid the groundwork for today's organized campaigns. It began to shift in 1995 when a young trader, Gideon Akaluka, was killed in Kano, accused of blasphemy before he could stand trial. His death marked a turning point.
By 2015, reports claimed more than 15,000 Christians had been killed nationwide. A wave spreading from thousands were slaughtered in 2016. Survivors fled as their farmlands were seized by gunmen believed to be Fulani militants. Further north, in Kano, mob justice over alleged blasphemy has left countless Christians dead, their killers often walking free. Even Abuja, the capital, has felt the reach of hate. From Mrs. Eunice Olawale's murder in 2016 to church bombings on Christmas Day, the message was clear: no Christian is safe anywhere. Zamfara's Christians live under constant threats, letters demanding churches close or face attack. In many towns, worship moved underground. In Kogi, militants stormed Deeper Life Bible Church during Bible study, killing worshipers in the dark. Decades later, families still mourn without justice. Nasarawa State tells a similar story. Baby dedications turned into massacres, churches reduced to ashes. In Benue, Nigeria's food basket, thousands of Christian farmers have been killed, their fertile lands now contested by armed herders. The violence escalated in 2018 when 2 priests and 17 parishioners were killed during morning mass in Baloum. By 2025, Benue and Plateau had become epicenters, entire Christian farming villages wiped out, often overnight.
Witnesses recount attackers shouting religious slogans, then occupying the land. A chilling blend of jihad and colonization. Kaduna's southern region has endured years of such assaults. Clergy call it a slow-burning genocide. Between 2016 and 2023, hundreds died across 53 Kaduna villages. Survivors say the attacks follow a pattern: encirclement, burning, then takeover. In Plateau State, Christmas Eve 2023 became a nightmare. Nearly 200 Christians killed in coordinated raids. When questioned, the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association once justified similar killings as retaliation for lost cows, proof that economics and extremism intertwine. The ideological root is clear: jihadist expansion masked as herder grievances. Each seized farm feeds both cattle and conquest. Borno, birthplace of Boko Haram, remains the epicenter of jihad. Churches, schools, entire towns reduced to rubble. Adamawa's story mirrors Borno's. Pastors beheaded, believers kidnapped, communities erased. Yet survivors still gather to pray under trees. Each attack deepens displacement. Millions now live in makeshift camps, farming no longer possible, their lands quietly repurposed. Observers warn this is not spontaneous violence, but a campaign, jihadist ideology using land as both weapon and reward. In many towns, attacks follow a chilling rhythm: assault at night, silence by dawn, and then the slow march of new occupants into the land.
Each burned home marks not only a life lost, but a boundary shifted, faith uprooted, geography rewritten. Journalists tracing the conflict describe how violence and migration transform demographics. Christian communities vanish, grazing corridors expand. Survivors rarely return home. The trauma runs deep, the fear of another raid, deeper still. At the heart of the struggle lies fertile land, the Middle Belt's lifeline, capable of feeding millions. Control that soil, and you control survival. Analysts link jihad ideology to expansion, establishing Islamic enclaves where Christian villages once stood. In Plateau's Christmas Eve tragedy, witnesses recall attackers chanting Allahu Akbar before torching entire hamlets, a script repeated across states. Government statements call these clashes farm disputes, yet satellite evidence shows selective targeting of Christian settlements. The silence from leadership emboldens aggressors. Justice remains elusive, prosecutions rare, memory short. Meanwhile, humanitarian agencies struggle to count the displaced. Over 3 million people, most of them Christian farmers. Children grow up in exile, calling camps home. never knowing the villages where their parents once tilled the soil.
Some displaced Christians venture back, only to find mosques built where churches stood, a transformation achieved without open declaration of war. International voices have begun to notice. From Washington to London, lawmakers debate sanctions and humanitarian interventions. Yet within Nigeria, even speaking the word genocide invites backlash. Officials insist the crisis is exaggerated. Faith leaders continue to ring alarm bells. Catholic bishops call the killings a moral stain. Pastors organize peace walks across divided communities. Underneath, economic motives persist. New settlers graze cattle freely while displaced farmers languish in hunger. Analysts describe this as resource jihad, weaponizing religion to secure territory and economic power. Beyond Nigeria's borders, similar patterns appear across the Sahel, extremist networks pushing south in search of land and legitimacy. For many victims, faith is the final refuge. They rebuild altars of mud, worship under open skies, and sing in defiance of fear. Benue priests describe their mission as tending to both souls and soil, protecting people and reclaiming farmland. In villages that survive, communities erect tower chains, sharing information networks to warn of raids. But without state protection, vigilance offers little safety. Militias return faster than authorities respond. Across Nigeria's media landscape, journalists risk threats to tell these stories, documenting patterns officials prefer to ignore. Every figure hides a family, every statistic a face. Behind numbers lie names: Gideon, Deborah, Leah, Michael. Leah Sharibu's refusal to renounce her faith remains a symbol of courage. Years later, her whereabouts are still unknown. Her story reminds the world that this conflict is not just about land, it is about conscience and belief. Earth experts urge a united response: stronger governance, protection of rural communities, and equitable land reforms. Without justice and restitution, displacement will continue, breeding resentment that extremists exploit. Faith-based organizations now fill the gap, providing aid where government presence fades. Through their work shines a message stronger than fear, the belief that land can be reclaimed and peace restored when justice finally root takes.
As survivors rebuild, the landscape itself bears witness. Charred earth where grain once grew, churches standing roofless but unbroken. Satellite analysis shows how dozens of Christian villages have disappeared from official maps, replaced by new settlements within months. Behind every disappearance lies a family displaced, their legal documents burned, their identity tied to land that no longer exists. In many regions, traditional rulers plead for peace, yet are powerless against heavily armed militias who outnumber police. The United Nations and human rights groups continue to call for investigations, but few reach the courtroom stage. Meanwhile, weapons flow freely across porous borders, fueling attacks that combine jihadist zeal with economic ambition. For local farmers, the conflict is less about ideology and more about survival. Who plants, who harvests, who eats. Many displaced believers find strength in Scripture, drawing parallels between their trials and the Exodus story. Aid convoys travel dangerous roads, sometimes attacked, sometimes turned back, yet they keep coming. Faith communities abroad send help and raise awareness, urging global media to cover what locals call a slow war. Despite the scale, many Nigerians still believe reconciliation is possible if truth is spoken and land restored. Some state governments have begun limited compensation schemes, though few victims ever see payment. Observers warn that without justice, cycles of revenge could ignite a broader national crisis. For now, peace survives only in pockets, small communities guarded by faith and determination. Human rights advocates describe Nigeria's conflict as a moral test for the world. Will indifference triumph over empathy?
Digital technology now helps record evidence. Mobile phones, drones, and citizen reporters creating a trail for future justice. Still, the greatest defense may lie in education, teaching young Nigerians the value of coexistence before hatred takes root again. As the sun sets over the Middle Belt, the land seems peaceful, but beneath the quiet lies memory, unresolved. Every evening church bells ring across what remains, reminders of endurance, faith, and the cost of silence. To some, these are mere local clashes. To those who live them, it is a slow erasure of culture, of memory, of home. The pattern is unmistakable. Destroy the church, scatter the people, occupy the land, rename the place. What began as scattered raids has matured into a network of control. Spiritual war fought with bullets and deeds. Yet the hope that unites survivors is stronger than the ideology that divides. They speak of forgiveness and of rebuilding. Across borders, advocacy groups gather signatures, demanding Nigeria protect its minorities and prosecute hate crimes. For international audiences, these stories challenge distant assumptions, reminding the world that persecution is not past tense. In Nigeria, citizens of every faith who reject violence become quiet heroes, defending each other against extremism. The nation's future depends on these alliances, ordinary people choosing peace over propaganda. Analysts say land can heal as well as divide when ownership becomes shared stewardship, not conquest. If Nigeria can secure justice for the victims, it may yet transform tragedy into testimony, a model for reconciliation in a fractured world. Faith under fire has not been extinguished. It burns quietly in every candle lit, every seed replanted, every prayer whispered for a nation's soul.